Okay, so moving within Israel.
Sounds fun, right?
Well, it can be, but it's definitely not as simple as just packing up boxes.
Yeah, no kidding. There's a whole other side to it. Paperwork, offices, bureaucracy. It can get pretty overwhelming.
You said it. It's almost like there's this whole hidden world of things you got to deal with when you move in Israel.
Right. It's kind of crazy. So, for this deep dive, we're tapping into some expertise from someone who knows this world inside and out. A rep from Mazy Cal. It's pronounced Mazy Cal.
Mazy Cal. Oh, they're amazing. They're like the secret weapon for anyone who's ever had to deal with, well, Israeli bureaucracy.
Exactly. And what's interesting is they're not like a regular moving company. They don't move your furniture or anything.
Yeah, they're all about the paperwork, all the official stuff you got to update when you move, utilities, address changes, all that.
Right, exactly. And I can imagine that even for Israelis who are used to it, the stuff can be a headache. So for someone new to the country,
Forget about it. It's like a whole other language. Totally. So let's break this down a bit. What makes moving within Israel so bureaucratically intense?
well, first off, there's just a ton of different places you have to notify when you move. The Ministry of Interior for your address, of course.
Makes sense.
Then there's the National Insurance Institute, your health insurance, the post office, and of course, all your utility companies.
Looks like a never-ending list.
Yeah, and each one has its own forms, procedures, deadlines. It's enough to make anyone go crazy.
Okay, so that's where Mazy Cal comes in.
Mm-hmm.
They basically handle all this for you.
Exactly. They become your liaison, your go-between with all these different organizations. They know the forms, the deadlines, who to contact.
It's like having a personal bureaucracy ninja.
Right. And the best part is they stay updated on all the regulations. So you don't have to worry about missing something or making a mistake.
Yeah, I bet that peace of mind is worth a lot, especially when you're already stressed about the actual move itself.
Absolutely. And let's be real. Think about all the time you'd spend running around to different offices, waiting in lines, trying to figure out forms.
Ugh, just thinking about it makes me tired.
Exactly. Mazy Cal takes all that off your plate so you can actually focus on getting settled in your new place.
So basically, they're a lifesaver. But let's get specific. What are some of the key things they actually do?
Well, their main thing is definitely address changes. They notify all the relevant authorities about your new address, making sure your records are updated.
That sounds pretty crucial. You wouldn't want to miss important mail or something just because some database still thinks you're at your old place.
Exactly. And they also handle all the utility transfers, electricity, water, gas, internet, phone, you name it, all switched over to your new place seamlessly.
Oh, wow. That's huge. I can only imagine the frustration of trying to coordinate all that myself.
And get this, they can even help with closing or opening accounts as needed. Like, say you're moving to a new municipality.
Right. You might need a new account there.
Exactly. They'll handle closing the old one and opening the new one. It's all taken care of.
This is starting to sound way too good to be true. But I have to ask, it can't be free, right?
Well, no, they are a business, so they do charge for their services. But the thing is, their pricing is often very competitive.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of times, it can actually end up saving you money in the long run.
How so?
Think about it. If you were doing all this yourself, how much time would you take off work? How much would you spend on transportation, maybe even a translator, if you're not fluent in Hebrew?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
It adds up quickly, right? Mazy Cal streamlines everything. So you avoid all those hidden costs, and it often ends up being more cost-effective than doing it yourself.
Plus, you get the peace of mind of knowing it's all being handled correctly. Okay, I'm sold. Let's say I'm moving and I need Mazy Cal in my life. How do I actually work with them? What's the process like?
So it all starts with a consultation. You contact them, give them some basic info about your move, old address, new address, move date, and what services you need.
So it's very personalized, tailored to your specific move.
Exactly. And once they have all that, they give you a detailed quote. No hidden fees or surprises. Everything's upfront and transparent.
That's good to know. I hate surprises when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, who doesn't? And once you agree to the quote, they handle the rest. They collect the necessary documents, fill out the forms, submit them, and keep you updated along the way.
So you literally just sit back and relax while they deal with the bureaucratic maze.
Pretty much. But I know what you're thinking.
What if something goes wrong?
Right. What if a form gets messed up or an authority rejects something?
Exactly.
Well, that's where their expertise really shines. They know the system so well they can usually navigate any roadblocks. They work with the authorities to resolve any issues and make sure your move stays on track.
So they're not just filling out forms, they're actually advocating for you, making sure things get done right.
Exactly. They're your partners in this whole process. They make moving in Israel way less stressful.
This is amazing. I can't believe how Mazy Cal has figured out how to take something so potentially frustrating and make it so smooth.
They definitely saw a need and filled it. Moving is already stressful enough. Why add all the bureaucratic headaches on top of it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of stress, I'm curious, we've talked about the practical side, but what about the emotional side? I mean, moving can be a big emotional experience, right? Leaving a familiar place, maybe a community. Does Mazy Cal offer any kind of support for that?
That's a great question, and honestly, it's something they're very aware of. While they focus on the paperwork, they get that moving is a bigger experience and emotions are part of it.
So it's not just a transaction for them. They actually understand the human element of it.
Exactly. They approach their clients with empathy. They know moving can be exciting, but also really nerve-wracking. They're there to answer questions, address concerns, and just generally provide reassurance.
It's like they're managing your stress levels along with your paperwork.
In a way, yeah. They really do go the extra mile to make it a positive experience for their clients. They get that moving is a big life event.
It's really great to hear that they take such a holistic approach. It's not just about ticking boxes, but about helping people through a big transition.
Absolutely. And speaking of transitions, there's another side to moving in Israel that can be tough, even with Ze Kal helping out. I'm talking about the actual logistics of the move. Finding movers, packing everything, and avoiding all the moving day disasters.
Oh, yeah. I've heard some horror stories about moving day, boxes disappearing, furniture getting damaged, movers who just don't show up.
Exactly. But luckily, there are things you can do to minimize those risks and make the whole process way smoother. And that's what we'll be talking about in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, everyone. We're about to unpack the secrets to a successful and hopefully stress-free move in Israel.
It's going to be good. So, yeah, before we jump into the actual moving part, I think it's worth repeating just how much Mazy Cal can really take off your mind. It's not just about saving time running around. It's about having the mental space to, think about the other parts of your move.
Totally. It's like they handle a whole layer of stress for you.
Oh.
You can actually picture yourself like living in your new place instead of worrying about forms.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to the actual move itself, one thing that people, even experienced movers, often forget is decluttering before you even start packing.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm the worst for keeping things I might need someday, and then I end up moving boxes of junk from one apartment to the next.
Yeah.
Any tips for breaking that habit?
Oh, absolutely. The key is to be ruthless. Ask yourself, have I used this in the past year? If the answer is no, it's probably time to let it go, donate it, sell it, or if it's really useless, just toss it. You'll feel so much lighter, both physically and, mentally.
It's like a pre-move cleanse for your living space. And speaking of cleaning, I'm guessing that's something you got to do before the movers show up, not after.
You got it. It's one of the things people forget the most. They're so busy packing and organizing that basic cleaning slips their mind.
Yeah, and I bet it feels so much better to walk into a clean new apartment.
Yeah.
Rather than one with, dust and whatever the last tenant left behind.
Oh, for sure. It's a fresh start. And it also lets you see if there's any damage already there before your stuff arrives. Important for, documentation.
Right, good point. Speaking of documentation, contracts. We talked a bit about written agreements with movers before, but I'm guessing there's some specific things to be aware of when moving in Israel, right?
You're on the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, Israel has its own consumer protection laws, and they apply to moving companies too. For example, movers are legally required to give you a written quote. It has to spell out what the move includes, the estimated cost, how you'll pay, all that.
So no more, vague promises scribbled on a napkin.
No, definitely not. And it's not just about the initial quote. The contract should also include things like what happens if something gets damaged or lost, what their insurance covers, and how you deal with any disagreements.
It's like a roadmap for a smooth move. Everyone knows what to expect.
Exactly. And here's a fun fact. Even if you negotiated everything in English, the final contract has to be in Hebrew, according to Israeli law.
Wow, really? That's actually really important, especially for new immigrants or anyone who doesn't speak Hebrew fluently.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what they're agreeing to.
Yep, exactly. Prevents misunderstandings. And speaking of protection, let's talk about insurance. We know things can and do go wrong during a move, so making sure you're covered is super important.
Okay, but what exactly does good coverage mean in Israel? Is there like a standard policy all movers have to have, or does it change?
Good question. And this is where it can get a bit tricky. Israel has laws about liability for damage, yeah, but there isn't one specific insurance policy that every moving company has to have.
So it's really up to the person moving to do their research, to make sure the company they're hiring has enough insurance.
Exactly. And it's not enough to just ask, do you have insurance? You need to actually see their policy, check the amounts they're covered for, and read what's included and what's not included.
It's like that saying, trust but verify.
Yes. And don't be shy about asking questions. If something's unclear, get them to explain it.
It's your stuff that's at risk. You deserve to be in the know.
Absolutely. Now here's a tip that's specific to moving in Israel. Remember, Shabbat. If you're moving on a Friday, most moving companies won't work after sunset. Shabbat starts then.
Right, of course. So that's definitely something to think about when you're planning the move,
Yeah,
especially if you have a lot of stuff.
for sure. And on the topic of planning, let's talk about timing. Remember we mentioned peak moving season in Israel. It's usually during the summer.
Yeah, because everyone loves moving in that crazy heat.
Right. And obviously that peak season means higher demand and higher prices. So if you have any wiggle room with your moving date, think about moving during the off season, like winter.
It's like traveling. You get better deals if you go during the less popular time.
Exactly. And not only could you save money, but movers are probably more available then too. So it's a win-win. Okay, so we've talked about getting rid of stuff, cleaning, contracts, insurance, timing. What else should people keep in mind as they get closer to moving day?
It's a lot to remember.
It is, yeah. One thing that often gets missed is packing strategically. It's not just about throwing things in boxes and hoping for the best.
I've definitely been there, staring at a mountain of boxes and having no idea where I packed the coffee maker.
Exactly. So here's a pro tip. Pack an essentials box. This has all the things you'll need right away in your new place. Toiletries, medicine, a change of clothes, phone chargers, maybe even some snacks and drinks.
It's like a moving day survival kit.
Exactly. That way you don't have to dig through boxes when you're already tired and hungry from moving. And another important tip, label your boxes clearly. And I mean really clearly.
Don't just write like kitchen stuff. Be specific. Pots and pans. Utensils. It'll make unpacking so much easier, and it'll help the movers put the boxes in the right rooms.
Yes. It's all about setting yourself up for success. Oh, and here's another tip that often gets overlooked. Be present on moving day. It's tempting to just, hand over the keys and let the movers do their thing, but being there to supervise and answer questions can make a big difference.
Right, it's about being proactive and making sure things are done the way you want.
Exactly. And it's not just about watching the movers, it's also about taking a moment to say goodbye to your old place, to acknowledge the memories you made there, and to get yourself ready for the move to your new home.
That's a really nice way to think about it. It's not just about moving your stuff, it's an emotional transition too.
For sure. And speaking of emotions, that brings us to another big part of moving. Managing the stress and sometimes just feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, the stress is real. Packing, organizing, cleaning, everything.
Yeah.
It can be a lot. Any tips for staying sane during the chaos?
Definitely. One of the best things you can do is break the move down into smaller chunks. Don't look at the whole mountain you have to climb. Just focus on one step at a time.
It's like they say for writing. Don't try to write the whole novel at once. Just write a page.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Get your friends, family, or even professional organizers to help with packing, cleaning, anything that feels too much.
Delegating is a lifesaver when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And self-care is so important during a move. Make sure you're sleeping enough, eating well, and taking breaks. Moving is a marathon, not a sprint.
Such good advice. It's all about being kind to yourself, knowing your limits, and taking care of yourself during the process.
Exactly. And speaking of taking care of yourself, there's another part of moving that's often overlooked. But it can make a big difference in how happy you are in your new place. Building community.
Oh, that's so true. It's not just about moving your stuff. It's about moving your life, your connections, your sense of belonging.
Yes. And that takes time and effort and a willingness to put yourself out there. But it's so worth it.
So how do you suggest people go about building community in a new place. It can feel especially hard in Israel, where things can seem pretty close-knit already.
Yeah, I get that. It can be a little intimidating at first, but honestly, most Israelis are very warm and welcoming. They love to connect, share stories, and help each other out.
That's encouraging to hear. So it's about taking that first step, putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to do that. Walk around your new neighborhood, talk to your neighbors, join local groups, go to events.
It's about finding those things that connect us, right? The shared interests that go beyond language or cultural differences.
Yes, you got it. Well, looks like we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive.
Wow, time flies when you're talking about moving in Israel.
It really does. We've covered a lot: decluttering, cleaning, contracts, insurance, strategic packing. And we've also talked about the emotional side of moving, managing stress, and finding ways to build community in your new place.
And we couldn't have done it without the expert tips from Mazy Cal, who helped navigate the, shall we say, interesting bureaucracy here.
Absolutely. They're amazing. But we're not quite finished yet. In the final part, we'll be exploring some of the unexpected opportunities that can come from moving. How what seems like a logistical challenge can actually be a chance for growth, creativity, and new beginnings.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. Stay tuned, everyone, for the final chapter of our moving adventure. Welcome back. I gotta say, after the last 2 parts, I'm feeling way more ready for my next move. A lot less like it's going to be a total disaster.
That's great to hear. But we're not done yet. We've talked about all the important stuff, the practical stuff, the ways to make it less stressful. But moving isn't just about getting through it, you know? It can be a chance for something bigger, maybe even transformative.
Ooh, transformative moving. I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
Think about it. You're literally picking up your whole life, going through every single thing you own, deciding what to keep and what to let go of. That's a huge opportunity to really look at yourself.
It's like being forced to take stock of everything, not just your stuff, but all the, emotional baggage we tend to carry around too.
Exactly. And as you're going through those boxes, you're going to find things that trigger memories, feelings, maybe even dreams you forgot about. It's a chance to connect with those parts of yourself again and to ask yourself, does this still fit who I am now, the life I'm building?
Wow, that's pretty deep. It's not just about cleaning out your closets, it's about cleaning out your inner self too.
Exactly. And that's where the transformative part really comes in. When you let go of the things that don't resonate with you anymore, you make space for new stuff, new possibilities, new experiences, new connections. You can redefine yourself, try new things, and become a more genuine version of yourself.
It's like shedding your old skin and becoming a newer, better you. Which actually reminds me of something we talked about before: donating or repurposing stuff you don't need anymore.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to make your move a positive thing for others and for the environment. If you're getting rid of things that are still good, donate them to organizations that help people in need.
There are so many amazing charities in Israel: shelters, food banks, groups that help new immigrants, families struggling financially.
Right. And it's not just about being charitable. Donating things can make you feel really good too.
How so?
Well, instead of just throwing things away, you're choosing to give them a second life, to help someone else, to make a difference, even a small one.
It's like turning your move into a force for good in the world. I like that.
Me too. And speaking of doing good, moving to a new place, even just a new neighborhood, can be a great chance to get involved in your community.
That's true. It's a way to meet new people, find new places you love, and contribute to your new surroundings.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a huge commitment or anything. Volunteer somewhere, join a community garden, go to a local event, just chat with the barista at your new favorite coffee shop, little things like that.
It's those small steps that help you become a part of your new community. Right? Find those connections.
You got it. And speaking of connecting, it reminds me of another thing moving can spark: creativity.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, you're in a completely new space, surrounded by new things to see, hear, experience. It can make you see the world in a new way, wake up a different part of your brain. It might make you want to write, paint, make music, whatever your creative outlet is.
It's like your new environment is a blank canvas, and you can fill it with whatever you want.
Exactly. And again, it doesn't have to be anything big or professional. Just rearrange your furniture, try a new recipe, write a poem about moving, learn a few chords on the guitar, anything.
It's about having fun, exploring, being a beginner again.
Yes. And speaking of new beginnings, that seems like a perfect place to end our deep dive. Moving isn't just about changing your address. It's about embracing change in general. about seeing the potential for growth and creativity in every new experience.
This has been such an awesome journey. We've learned so much, from practical tips about packing and paperwork to the emotional stuff that comes with leaving a familiar place and building a new life somewhere else.
We figured out how to handle the bureaucracy, how to find good movers, pack smart, and even manage all the stress that comes with moving.
And most importantly, I think, we've realized that moving isn't just a pain in the neck. It's a chance to change, to grow, to connect with ourselves and our communities, and to be creative.
So, to everyone out there who's getting ready to move, just remember, embrace the adventure, trust the process, and know that every move, even the tough ones, is a step towards something new and exciting.
And seriously, check out Mazy Cal. They take all the stress out of dealing with the, shall we say, unique bureaucracy in Israel. They're lifesavers.
Couldn't agree more. Good luck with your move, everyone.